Welcome to Snap, Tackle, and Flop, the college football podcast where we talk about all things college football. We've been away for a couple of weeks, but we're ready to jump back in the swing of things. I'm here in the booth with Leo King,
That's my name.
and Tyler Walter.
It's a pleasure to be here. I know that it's been so long we forgot the names of our co-hosts that we may or may
It's
not
not a hard
have
one.
lived with, but it's fine.
Hey,
You remembered me, and
Leo's
that's all
a
that
hard name
matters.
to remember.
Yeah.
Leo's a hard name to remember. All right, let's get to it.
Well, we're just gonna wing it because when we go on bye week, we really go on bye week. We don't look ahead. We don't watch film. We don't practice. Y'all want to just jump right in and talk about the rankings?
Yeah, let's do it. So, what do you think about our rankings right now? As far as the AP poll comes out, what do you think, Tyler? I will start with you.
Well, okay. I think this would be a more entertaining way to have this discussion instead of judging the AP rankings, which I'm sure we have issues with at different points. Let's talk about who our top team is. I guess who
Okay.
have number one right now. Leo,
Ohio State.
ooh, Keshawn.
You have Ohio State as the top team?
Yeah, I do.
Who would you have, Keshawn?
I gotta go with Alabama. I mean, it ain't no contest. It ain't no contest, Paul. Alabama is the number one team in the nation.
Only 12 voters have picked the correct top team in the latest AP poll, and that team is LSU.
No.
Big fucking yikes. Big fucking yikes right there.
I mean,
Okay. Real quick. I'm just curious. Let's sort of go through, and then we'll come back and we can argue about why we have the teams in different places. Okay. So Keshawn, can you sort of take me through your top six real quick? Don't really elaborate. Just sort of go like Bama's 1, and then who is 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
yeah. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. the reasoning behind this, Bama's got to be the top. I'll say it like this: Bama's got to be the top. We can go. LSU's probably behind them. I'll give Ohio State a nudge, and then I'll throw Oklahoma behind them. Sure, those are my four right there. Would be in the CFP if it started today.
Wait, one more time. I want to make sure I have that. Bama, then who?
I'll see. I got Alabama. I've got LSU. I've got Ohio State, and then I'll throw in Oklahoma after that.
Okay. Who's 5 and 6? Is Clemson 5 at least?
Who you got, Leo?
Who's your 5 and 6, Keshawn?
Yes. Is Clemson 5?
He doesn't even want to
Clemson
say.
6.
Clemson 6.
Clemson could be number 10 as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, Clemson
Who's
could be
5?
number 10
Wisconsin?
as far as I'm concerned.
5
Yeah, Wisconsin. Actually, I'll put Wisconsin ahead of them. Actually, yeah, I'll put Wisconsin ahead of them.
Okay. Leah?
So I've got Ohio State number 1. Clearly the most complete team, doing the most. Their offense is doing the same shit that Alabama and LSU are doing. Maybe not on the same magnitude, but I mean, putting up good numbers. And then their defense is actually good, unlike LSU and Alabama. Alabama's shown flashes. LSU looks like shit defensively as far as giving up 38 to fucking Vanderbilt. But
so you're saying UA is number 2?
UA is number 2, yes. Clemson's number 3. And then I'll give the nod to LSU as number 4 because they're more physical than my number 5 team, which would be Oklahoma. And then number 6 would be Wisconsin. I put them down there. They've been extremely impressive, but their offense is going to be extremely one-dimensional when they play. I think they're going to get destroyed by Ohio State. And it's not because of how much worse I think they are. I think just based on the fact that they're going to get stuck to trying to run, and Ohio State's good enough. Ohio State's going to be like what Alabama's been the last several years, where they're really good at stopping the run and making someone one-dimensional. and Wisconsin really can't beat a team like that through the air.
So we all have the same 6 teams in our top 6 at least. So I already said I had LSU. I would have Bama number 2. I'd have Ohio State number 3. Then Oklahoma. Then the defending national champions down at 5, and I would have Wisconsin at 6. So,
you guys are sleeping on Clemson.
I guess so really the only thing we all agree on is we would all have Leo and I have Wisconsin at 6. Keshawn has them at 5. So I think we all sort of agree on Wisconsin being just on the outside of the field. Let's start with Ohio State. You elaborate a little bit, Leo, but why Ohio State as the definitive number 1 right now?
Well, I mean, you watch them and you don't see weaknesses, and I know they haven't played the competition that LSU's played, obviously, so you expect those sort of weaknesses to come out from LSU. But at the same time, I don't trust LSU nearly as much as I trust Ohio State and Justin Fields, just based on what I've been able to see. And then defensively speaking, Ohio State's been lights out. They haven't given much up to anyone. Chase Young is incredible on the defensive line.
Ohio State's second best win this year. They beat Michigan State 34-10 this past weekend. Their second best win, 48-7 over Nebraska, 42 over Cincinnati, 51-10 to Indiana. Probably one of those games. I don't feel strongly about any of those teams.
No, but you watch them and it's not just the game control. It's cliche, but the eye test. You watch them and they just look like a good football team. They look like Alabama's looked in the last several years. You don't see the weaknesses you see when you watch LSU and when you watch Alabama. Which Alabama, obviously, the weaknesses are not on offense because that's the best offense in the country, no doubt. But defensively, there are definitely some weaknesses. And I think Alabama's shown flashes of being great on defense, but stuff like that first drive against A&M makes me worry a lot about them.
So should we interpret then if Alabama and Ohio State played on a neutral field today, you think Ohio State should at least be favored?
Yes. I think.
Oh, you would say so too, Keshawn? You
be honest with you.
Bama number 1?
I got Bama at number 1, and I'm sticking by it. I'm sticking to it. But I do agree. If we were on a neutral site today, I would say that Alabama would probably Alabama would be at least a touchdown underdog against the Buckeyes, just because you go back to what Leo's saying. You look at it from the perspective of, yes, they passed the eye test. Yes, they're hitting on all 8 cylinders. Justin Fields is an incredible quarterback, and on top of that, they're really going through. Now, again, we got to go back and say it again. They ain't played nobody, Paul. But at the same time, because they ain't played nobody, the key is they still look really well. They look like a complete team. And we all kind of, said coming into this season, what were they going to be like without their head coach, Urban Meyer? But here's the key. No matter what it is, no matter how incomplete they may have been, we thought they may have been, they have stood the test and they really proved that, hey, we got it on offense, we got it on defense, we can win. So, I mean, you put Alabama and Ohio State on neutral field, I would say Ohio State would have a 7-point advantage at least on the Tide.
So does that mean your argument for Bama being number 1 is at least partly I guess would it be fair to say the difference for you is Alabama's resume?
Yes, actually it would totally be resume. Mostly because again, and you can call me SEC homer if you want to, but I'll be honest with you, the SEC is just such a complete conference this year, and top to bottom, the SEC has really just put together such a big, I'll say it like this, you just don't know what you're going to get. There's so much parity in the SEC. Teams going to beat up on each other that shouldn't beat up on each other.
Well, and I mean, and look at like A&M versus, like, you've got Auburn they're ranked 11 in the country right now, and A&M is unranked. However, the game was pretty close, and I don't think either team's that much better than the other team. I mean, Auburn.
Right.
It'd be hard for me to say Auburn's better. I know they won the game, obviously, but I think if you play that game 10 times,
better than A&M.
I think you can say they are because they won, obviously, but I don't think they're much better.
I would pick Auburn.
I really wouldn't, because that quarterback is trash.
Over
Auburn's quarterback is awful. Their defense is incredible, but Bo Nix is trash, and it's because he's a freshman. But I don't know. After watching what he did against Florida, I'm completely unimpressed with him, and I wasn't that impressed with Auburn before. I'm still scared of them coming and beating us,
but even still, like you just said, you think about it like this: South Carolina beat Georgia this weekend. Okay, who would have put that? If you would have betted on that game in Vegas, you probably would have made a good little chunk of change this weekend. I mean, come on.
It's a big strength schedule boost.
Georgia was the number 3 team heading into that game, and I mean, just looked like they didn't know what was going on. They didn't have it on offense. They definitely didn't necessarily have it on defense. And it just, you can call South Carolina had a good day. You can say that, Georgia had a bad day. But the point of what I'm trying to say, and then Alabama smoked South Carolina. I forget the score on that game, but I want to say they put up 50 points on South Carolina. But the key is
Alabama beat South Carolina 47-23.
Thank you. I mean, they put up just closely near to 50 points on South Carolina, and the fact that Georgia struggled and lost against them, it just goes back to say the SEC top to bottom is the most complete conference because teams can beat each other. You can't go to the Big Ten and say that, okay, Purdue is going to beat Ohio State. Yes, it happened last year.
Not this year.
I mean, it happened last year, but the point of what I'm trying to say, you can't go and say Purdue is going to beat Ohio State. I mean, it's just not going to happen because, they can luck up, they can have a little energy, they can have a little bit of this and that, but those upsets in the other conferences are not as predictable as the SEC, where every week is an upset, could be an upset. So I feel like going back to the resume test, Alabama has a stronger resume because of the conference, not necessarily because the teams they play are great, but just because of the conference. So.
Okay, so one thing I'd say is real quick. I don't know that Alabama can really get the SEC bump this early. Alabama's only played South Carolina, Ole Miss, which debatable whether Ole Miss should even count as an SEC program the way they've been playing late so far this season, and Texas A&M. So that's only 3 games, not a huge difference in playing a SEC schedule at this point. Alabama beats Texas A&M, which coincidentally shared the 24th place with Michigan State last week, I believe. Yeah, no, Michigan State was 20.
First time in a while.
They shared, or Michigan State was right behind them. One of those two. Either way, they're AP voters basically viewed those two teams as identical last week. And then Alabama's second best win is probably the South Carolina win, which obviously looks much better after the Gamecocks beat Georgia. Is a win out South Carolina like noticeably better than a win at Nebraska?
Yeah, Nebraska's trash.
Okay. So we agree that Bama has the best resume argument of those two teams.
I mean, I think they're close. I don't think there's a
resume.
Yeah, resume. I think it's better, but I think it's pretty close. I think they're very similar resumes.
So still pretty close. Okay.
I would say.
I mean, again, resume is one thing. If you put these teams up head to head, like we were talking about, head to head, sure. Ohio State, I give them a 7-point. I give them a 7-point advantage on neutral field. But at the same time, if you say, who do I think has been tested more this season? Of course, it's going to be Alabama. Don't get me wrong; you're beating your opponents pretty heavily and pretty handily. But again, the Big Ten to me isn't stacked. Okay, a Nebraska team. Okay, yeah, and we look at their resume. Come on, I mean, there's nothing on their resume that says that if they go against a top tier team that they're going to win and win convincingly, that they're going to get a bid to the national, that they would get a bid to beat a top 10 team, a top tier program.
Okay, so Leo argues, and perhaps correctly, that Ohio State, just by the eye test, looks great, maybe the best team in the country. Keshawn argues Bama looks slightly worse, but they have a better resume. Well, LSU's resume can blow Bama's resume out of the water. LSU won at Texas, number 9 at the time, and then just beat number 7 Florida. LSU has maybe 2 of the best wins, that the best win of the season and the second best win of the season, perhaps so far, of any team. So LSU should be number 1. They've played the toughest schedule to date. They've won both games. I think both games were somewhat convincing, Florida more so than Texas. And LSU's offense is maybe not as dynamic as Ohio State and Alabama, but it's right there. And the defense hasn't been the same defense of old, but you could argue LSU's defense has looked exposed in the same way that Alabama's defense has. You know, when you're up that much, teams have to throw it a bunch at you, and teams are just going to eventually score points. So I would argue that LSU at least is ahead of Alabama, and then I would argue that the eye test is close enough. LSU gets the resume bump over Ohio State.
Just do a thought exercise here, though, and just imagine Alabama played that schedule, which they didn't have an opportunity to play. So they don't have an opportunity to have the same resume. But do you really think the results would be any different if Alabama played those 2 games, the Texas game and the Florida game?
You can't give Alabama the benefit because of the schedule.
But how can you say LSU is better just because they've played better teams?
Alabama controls the schedule to some extent. Alabama scheduled Duke. LSU scheduled Texas.
Well,
The ACC forced it down our throat that we had to play Duke because no one wants to play us.
First off, you got to look at it this way. Okay, yeah, just say Alabama had LSU schedule. Okay, if Alabama had LSU schedule and played Texas and played Florida to this point in the date, okay, you got to think about it. Sure, they'd be the unconvincing number 1 team in the nation. I agree with Tyler on that. But the other part about that is this. I agree with Leo. They haven't had the chance to play those teams, and they won't get that chance to play that teams. Now, here's my point on this. Is this Texas team who we thought they were? Now, I'm going on record and said at the beginning of the season, I said that Texas was back. Well, I'm coming back today, and I'm making that right. Texas isn't the team that we thought they were going to be at the beginning of the season.
Texas is the team I thought. Actually, Texas is better than the team I thought they'd be.
Well, Texas is not the team that I thought they were going to be this season. I thought they would go into the Red River Showdown and kind of, give Oklahoma. But neither did Oklahoma seem like the team that I thought they were going to be with Jalen Hurts behind them. I thought they'd be a good team, but I wouldn't think they were going to be this elite. But here's the key. That Texas win as the season goes on, is it going to be, if Texas finishes 7-5 here, is that Texas win really going to say much that, okay, LSU beat a 7-5 Texas team?
Right now, do you think Texas or Texas A&M is a better win?
Right now, I would say Texas A&M is the better win. Only because Texas A&M lost to a Clemson team that was, I will say.
Well, why do we care who Texas A&M lost to? Don't go through Texas A&M's whole schedule now. Texas A&M has had chances to play good teams.
They have, and
every time they've done it, they've flopped.
They
haven't hung in there. They didn't hang in there against. They didn't hang in there against Alabama.
How dare they not hang in there against the 1 and 2 or like 2 of the top 3 teams in the nation? How dare they?
That's what I'm saying. They didn't hang in at all. Clemson was number 1 when they played them, and Clemson they held them to they lost 24.
They didn't hold Clemson. Clemson didn't have to do anything more than they did. They hung in with them for a little bit, but they didn't. Clemson had control of that game for the entire game. I don't care what the score is.
I think A&M's a top 15 team.
A&M to me would
if they didn't play Alabama and Clemson, then they would absolutely be a top 15 team.
Exactly.
Yeah, because they'd be beating up on.
So they're getting punished by playing the top 3 teams.
I think they played Lamar. They would have played no one.
Doesn't matter if you don't play.
You line them up on a neutral team or on a neutral field against any team in the country, and there's maybe 14 teams they wouldn't beat. Probably not even that many.
Exactly. And I'm not saying that Texas A&M is a great program, but they have the potential to get there.
Well, their ranking and where they are now is just a product of what they played.
Exactly. And you can't tell me Texas with their schedule how they played that can stack up. I believe Texas A&M, even though they've lost both those number ones, they've done it gracefully. Now, don't get me wrong,
Gracefully.
Lost to Alabama this weekend was not pretty, but at the same time, Texas A&M to me is a better built team, and I feel like they're better tested and could if Texas and Texas A&M played each other today, I would say Texas A&M would win by at least 2 touchdowns.
I have a 5-word rebuttal for you. 4-point win over Arkansas. They struggled to beat Arkansas.
Okay, but
they lost to Auburn. They've lost to Clemson, Auburn, and Alabama. Those are 3 really good teams. All teams that have a shot to win the championship this year.
Okay, but and who is
if the SEC is the conference you say it is, A&M, everybody eventually is going to have to play that. And but A&M, they dominated Texas State, they dominated Lamar, and they barely beat Arkansas. A&M their signature win is a 4-point win over Arkansas.
Okay,
Clemson beat UNC by a point, but they're still one of the top 5 teams, no doubt.
Clemson's winless. I mean, they're undefeated.
Yeah, and A&M didn't lose that game to Arkansas, so what's the difference?
I mean, still, Clemson almost lost to NC, so I mean, you think about it. We're not talking about the basketball team. We're talking about the football team. Come on now. The point of what I'm saying is the key is Texas A&M has had a harder schedule out the gate than Texas has. And even though Texas has played Oklahoma and has played LSU, I still think if you put Texas in the slot, Texas A&M.
Well, yeah, Clemson and Alabama are better than Clemson and Alabama are better than Oklahoma and LSU. That's
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. But I'm just
saying
they
had to play Auburn too.
If Texas played, if Texas had to play Alabama and Clemson to start off its schedule, and then had to turn around and play like a Florida or something like that, there's no way. There is absolutely no way that they would hold the record that they hold now. There's no way. They would be in the same position Texas A&M is. But see, Texas A&M, for them, they've got the hardest part of their schedule out the way. Now it's just trying to win out. Now they still got to play LSU. They got to play LSU.
They end the season at Georgia. They end the season home against South Carolina, at Georgia, at LSU.
I mean, but see,
they get Ole Miss, Miss State, and UTSA. So, I mean, this is the easiest part of their schedule.
They got to the gauntlet.
They might get some wins and get ranked again. And A&M should probably look. If A&M only loses 1 more game, maybe 2 more, A&M should probably rank. Their schedule is insanely hard. But as today, right now, I have more confidence in Texas than Texas.
I would agree with you in that. I definitely think Texas is better. I think they're also punished by the fact that they played 2 really good teams and happened to lose both those games. I don't think they're 15th.
No, yeah, I agree. And like it, I don't know if I have no idea where I'd rank A&M. Maybe they would sneak in at the back half of the ballot.
I would say
probably I would unrank them and jump them back in later in the season when other teams start to get losses. But I don't know how we went down this rabbit hole, but I think we can all agree that LSU has played a much tougher schedule than either Alabama or Ohio State.
Yes, but I think on a neutral field, Alabama is going to beat LSU 7
Okay, so
times
see, I would
out of
argue,
10.
I would pick Alabama today over LSU in a neutral field.
So it depends on how we're ranking. If we're going on resume, yes, absolutely LSU. But if we're going on who we think the better team is, I would say Alabama. And I would say Ohio State
medium,
and Clemson.
But I think you have to favor resume always over eye test because resume is proven and eye test is.
Well, you also got to factor in stuff like Nick Saban versus Ed Orgeron, and I mean stuff we know about.
No. I on a neutral field, I would pick Alabama handedly, and I don't know what the line is going to be for the Alabama LSU game, but
it's probably going to be a 7-point spread.
If it's that, I'll pick Alabama with the over confidently.
Fortunately, we won't really have to make that vote because that'll be decided for them when they play each other, and what will be a beautiful game.
That'll sort itself out. Ohio State can have one of the spots if they win out. So no one. Okay. So we all had Alabama in our top 2. So we all agree that Alabama is one of the best 2 teams.
Sure.
Or has played the best resume, depending on what you're arguing. Leo has LSU just
Fourth.
outside the playoffs. That's
No, I have them fourth. Did I not
Do
say
you?
fourth? I thought I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause
Sorry,
they're better
sorry.
than
You're right.
Oklahoma.
You had him fourth. But you have him behind. Okay, so let's talk about Clemson because Clemson's all over the board. I have him 5. Keshawn has him 6.
Yeah,
Leo, you
that's
still
what I
have
do.
him 3rd. So why are you respecting Clemson more than me and Keshawn?
Because the last 3 years we've watched them either lose to a Pitt, a Syracuse, or come within a point of losing to them and still make it to the playoffs. And 2 of those 3 years they've been dominant. I just think they suck in the regular season. I've seen the same shit over and over again. I don't think it's not like this UNC team's worse than that Pitt team they lost to, worse than that. I don't think them struggling with that one team should turn them into the 5th best team in the country when we all know what they have at quarterback, what that defense has, what they have in their coaching staff with both sides of the ball with assistants that have been there for like 6 years.
I think if they were I think if Clemson had to play any of these teams on a neutral field, Clemson would probably be right in it, or maybe even a heavy favorite over some of these teams. But I have yet to see it a consistent proof in the eye test from Clemson yet this year, and their schedule's just bad, just bad. I mean, A&M is we and maybe some of it's how I currently feel about A&M compared to maybe where y'all are, but I mean, A&M's the only win they've got, and that is maybe 24, 25 best team in the country, if that, for me. I don't know. Keshawn, how do you feel? You had him lower than I had him. You had him at 6.
Okay, so going back to what I said earlier, you came within a point of losing to UNC, not the basketball team, but the football team. Now, no disrespect to Mac Brown, like him as a coach, he was a decent coach, and when he was at Texas. But the key of what I'm trying to say is, this is what I don't like. How does Clemson get to play an easy schedule, get to the ACC championship game, and then come back and say, "Oh, we play Pitt, a 7-5 Pitt for our championship of our schedule, or the championship of our conference, and then we're in the college football playoff." That to me is just one of those things. Yeah, you're not challenging the regular season, or you can look at it 2 ways. You're not even challenging the regular season, so you're just making small improvements every week and you're getting rested up, so, quote unquote, for the last little 4 games of the season, or excuse me, for the last 2 games of the season, or you're sitting there and saying, we're not as good as we thought we were. We're not a complete team. And we're just going to go out here and just patty cake our way through the whole season, and then when it's go time, we're going to step it up a little bit. To me, that's not fair. That's not right. That's not good football. That's killing the sport. I mean, if you told me Clemson and Alabama were going to be in the next 4 college football playoffs, I would tell you that's great. That's great for Alabama, not so much for Clemson. I'm not being a homer here. I'm just saying it's from the truth. Clemson to me is not a team that should automatically get in there just because they went 12-0 and they came within a 1-point loss, but with a team like Syracuse, North Carolina, or fill in the blank.
Well, one thing I will say, to be fair, you're trashing Clemson's schedule, which is completely fair. It's just a hot mess of just mediocrity or worse than
atrocious.
That. But Clemson can only control 4 teams they play every year, and they scheduled A&M in one of those games, and they scheduled South Carolina in the other. So Clemson,
better than what we did.
We all expected to be maybe a slightly better team than they are now, or much better, depending on how you feel about them. And I mean, South Carolina's an in-state rival they're going to schedule every year, but props to them for keeping that game and not bumping it because they schedule a team like A&M. I mean, Clemson, they have 2 quality non-conference games, and I think that's more than a lot of teams are currently doing. I know we're in about 5 years, everyone will be playing that probably the way the schedules are shaking out. But Clemson is at least trying with the 4 games they have. Now, the other game against Charlotte and Wofford, maybe it should be beefed up. But I mean, 2 out of 4.
I
I
mean,
think that
I get it, Keshawn. It's frustrating watching them, like especially last year. It's frustrating watching them coast through their schedule, not play anyone, get to the ACC championship, play a 5-loss Pitt, and beat them by 1,000,000. Not get challenged there. Their only challenge
was
might
that a
have been
record? 1 million points? Was that a record?
there's something like
I
that.
don't
Yeah,
think
it's
they-
Yeah.
not. Yeah, it was
I
close
mean,
to
I
the
thought so.
Georgia
I
Tech
definitely
one.
remember. I lost track myself at 500,000.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
But
yeah, you know, you come in
then
there.
they get the luck of the draw by somehow being the 2 seed. They got to play the easier team, which I don't know how that works, but they got to play Notre Dame, which
I don't work either.
that was interesting.
Yeah.
So they got to game plan for Alabama probably literally all of last season. But at the same
Exactly.
time, they beat the shit out of us. So I mean,
No.
you know, I can't really say they're not good.
I mean,
Yeah.
you could say it two ways. Bama had a bad night. You could say we're not going to bring up the national championship from last year anyway because it's in the books. It's fine. But what I'm trying to say
are
is,
you about to proceed to talk about the national championship game?
no, that's in the books. It's done. But what I'm saying is the key is if you give me 12 weeks to prepare for a team, I better be ready at that point. You know,
Okay.
versus if you
So
give me-
it sounds like you are sort of alluding to the national championship.
No, what I'm alluding to is the fact, like we just said, Clemson's schedule is trash.
It's a cakewalk
And,
schedule, yeah.
and you know, back to the point of the matter is, you know, I respect Dabo. I respect Clemson. Their prestigiousness in college football, but again, the key is Clemson is not a quote unquote top tier team if you by schedule alone and by challenge alone, I don't think they're a top tier team. And that's why I put them at 6. If you put Clemson, okay, let's just put a hypothetical here. Take Clemson out of the ACC and put them in the SEC. Now they have to play the whole SEC
East or West? East.
East. We'll put them in the East.
12
You
and
have to play the whole SEC East. Now I'm not saying the SEC East
12 and 0.
is
12 and
great.
0.
I mean, it is. You know, the SEC East is not great.
I would pick Clemson to sweep the East or have one loss.
Yeah,
I would
maybe
pick
Georgia
either
if it's
Sweep the
at
East.
if it's at Georgia,
Maybe
maybe.
Yeah, maybe at Georgia.
Maybe they're out of conference game stuff.
I mean, if Clemson played in the SEC, if Clemson was South Carolina, if you take Clemson out of the ACC and put them in the SEC, and you give them a out of conference schedule with one Big Ten, and then put them against one ACC team at that point. You know, if they were in the SEC at that point, okay, great. It'd be nice. It'd be great, but we would know who Clemson is. And I don't put them as a 2-loss team. Sure, I think do I think like they could lose to a Florida or most definitely the Georgia game would be very interesting, but come on.
I think that's fair. Actually, I do think it's fair that if Clemson was played an SEC schedule, we would know who Clemson was, or we at least would have an idea who Clemson might be at this point of the season. And right now,
it'd be more fair, no doubt.
Yeah,
It'd be more fair, no doubt. But I think Clemson still would be on the level with Alabama. I don't think they'd be much worse.
Oh, sure. I mean, if you dated that game in Atlanta, Clemson versus Alabama in Atlanta for the SEC championship, sure.
Now Dabo's gonna have to learn to stop losing to unranked teams because that shit don't work in the SEC.
It don't.
Yeah. Well, Leo, when you said 12-0, my first thought is probably a loss to Vandy in the middle. Somewhere.
No, I lost to some fucking Temple at a conference game.
Yeah. So yeah, but yeah. I mean, it's interesting, but I mean, I think we all more or less agree on who we think should be in the playoff right now. Winner of Bama LSU, winner of Wisconsin Ohio State, Clemson and Oklahoma. Like at the end of the day, once they all play each other, this would sort itself out.
Yeah.
I just don't think there's even a debate about winner of Ohio State versus Wisconsin. I just see that being like every Bama game versus a pro style offense or a running offense in the past like 5 or 6 years. Just those teams don't work against teams that are so talented and complete like like Ohio State is now.
I'm gonna be.
I'm inclined to agree, but I kind of want to see Ohio State play another tough opponent. 'Cause doing it
Yeah.
against Michigan State, which has had not the greatest offense over the last several years, I'm going to need to see them shut down a decent offense. And I don't know. They're at Northwestern, and then they play Wisconsin. So they're not really going to get the chance to prove it to me before then. But if, say, Ohio State, if Ohio State did what they've done to everyone else to like Penn State, then I might be on board. And they'll get the chance to play Penn State too, but they'll play Wisconsin first. So we'll figure it out. I'm not there yet.
I do think it'll be really interesting seeing what Ohio State's offense is made of here more so than their defense, because I think Wisconsin definitely has a good defense.
Oh yeah.
I'm definitely on board with that. I just think they're one-dimensional offensively, and I mean they're amazing at what that one dimension is. But when you play a really good team, it's not enough. But it'll be interesting to see how, like, Justin Fields and all that against Wisconsin's defense.
I mean, here's my thing. I've seen Paul Chris's philosophy up front. I've seen Paul Chris's philosophy up front one time before, and when I went to a Wisconsin game 2 years ago. And I'm gonna be honest with you, Paul Chris he's a very mellow guy. I won't put him on the level of Mike Leach, but I'll say it like this: he's a very mellow guy. But here's the thing: he's gonna get you a win, and he's gonna get you a win the best way possible. And that's his philosophy. The Ohio State game, if Wisconsin played Ohio State, I'm going to be honest with you, they're not going to win that game by offense. They're not going to win that game by special teams. They're going to make small strides, and they're going to contain it and put them in a box. If they limit that team to being one dimension on defense, I think that's how they're going to win the game. Now, they're going to have to get down there and fight and play, but I'm not saying Wisconsin will probably win that game against Ohio State, but I will say it's going to be a whole lot closer than the experts would think. And I only say that because if Wisconsin made Ohio State a one-dimensional team and Jen just made them run the ball, I'm not convinced they could run the ball as well. But at the same time, a win's a win. 7 points is, 35 to 28. I mean, hey, a win's a win. So that's it. So that's why I think Ohio State will win, but Wisconsin's going to give them a better challenge. And I could make a case for them to be in that fourth spot if they do win that. If they win that game against Ohio State, there's no question they will be in that fourth spot. But it will be a good game to see.
I think that about does it for at least how we see the rankings right now. Now, I know we wanted to talk about Alabama. We talked about this a little bit. Do we feel good about Alabama like we did a couple weeks ago?
After seeing
will be the first
something.
to say. Let me put it this way: we made improvements.
Everyone who's listening, all two of you, could see Leo and Keshawn's expressions right now. They are not confident.
I mean, you got to think about something. Okay, running game. I'll give the running game a B+ from where it was 2 weeks ago. Defense, I give it a straight up F. The defense has legit in the last little bit of each of the games that they played against Ole Miss and Ole Miss and Texas A&M. Or they're like, okay, game's done, let's shut it down. They shut it down. Boys, time still on the clock. I mean, the defense to me, and then on the first ad, to me, I'm just very worried about how Alabama's defense is going to fare in those games against LSU or Georgia or something. So,
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's the same sort of thing. I mean, I'm not as worried about the running game. I think it's sort of I don't want to say non-issue because it would be nice to close out the games in the fourth quarter, but I don't think it really hurts us too much unless it's. I could see it hurting us in a game against an Oklahoma with how quick that sort of offense can score if we need to close them out.
Speaking of hurts.
Yeah. When we're up by like 15 in the fourth quarter, if we need to close it out, it could be a problem. like it almost was with Kyler Murray last year. But
True.
I more so obviously the defense is the concern. The sort of stuff that concerned me the most was that first drive, which I put in our group me. We're not winning the national championship this year after watching that drive because they had their way with us on that drive. But then literally the next drive we 3-and-outed them, and we had a lot of flashes of good pass rush and a lot of. It's just really inconsistent, but then you have a lot of third down problems where we can't get off the field in third down. The talent's there. There's just the busted coverage and the middle linebackers.
Well, traditionally, I gotta say this. Traditionally, Alabama has had a very hard time getting off the field on third down. If you look back, even
Back
we
with
could always
Kirby.
go back to the
Bird and Kirby.
Yeah, you can go back to the Kirby days. Even when Kirby was DC up here, we were still not getting off the field on third down. And I don't know what it is. It's a Bama thing, just like our kicker. But the key of what I'm trying to say is Bama does not do good at third down coverage. It could be 3rd and 20. Somehow or another, they're going to somehow try to get the first down. I don't know what it is, but,
We did great with Pruitt.
Yeah,
but he had
Pruitt
a pass
did
rush
great.
whenever we had him. We had an amazing defensive line with him.
Some days I miss Pruitt, but although he's not doing so great at Tennessee, but hey.
That's the other thing is negative plays. We don't seem to force as many negative plays as I'm accustomed to. But I'm not really full panic mode after the A&M game.
So I just looked this up. Alabama on third down. Alabama's third down defense is currently tied for 35th in the nation. I don't have the numbers from past years up, but I would guess Alabama's probably normally, especially at this point of the season, maybe like 15, 20 or higher.
Probably higher with all the non-conference teams.
Yeah, NO2s.
Yeah, probably higher with some of those. So it's not abysmal. It's just not what Alabama fans, y'all included, are used to. And I think some of that is just going to be the game is changing in front of us. I personally am not near as worried about Alabama as y'all are. I'm not super worried about the defense. I think the defense is not a lock in I think in past years, that's why the Clemson game was so jarring, is Alabama's defense wasn't like it normally is. And I think, but I guess like in every game before that, when we think of Alabama, we think of like the Michigan State playoff game.
Yep.
Like that's what we think of when we think of Alabama's defense. And Alabama's defense doesn't look like that this year. I don't know. I'm not as worried. I don't know that there's a defense out there that can shut down this offense. So for me, I think Alabama, instead of beating somebody, 35-7, I think Alabama's just going to have to beat teams 65-35.
And I'm okay with that. And I get it. My only concern is just when someone game plans well, which is the sort of thing I expect out of like Clemson and all that. Because like you saw Jimbo Fisher's game plan on that first drive. That sort of stuff looked great if you just attack the middle linebackers and fool them where they can be fooled. But, I don't think we're going to see them get fooled and something that costs us until we play one of those playoff teams.
You got to ask yourself a question. You got to ask yourself a big question here. LSU, a team that can handle itself for 4 quarters. LSU, a team who could play 4 quarters. You gotta, come on. If they did what A&M did on the first drive of of the whole game, Alabama's gonna have a long night. It's just that's what it's gonna be. But but even still, can Alabama's defense adjust to a game plan like LSU or like that, like they did against Texas A&M? Can they adjust? So
after watching LSU have success against Florida the other day, I'm not confident. I will say I'm not confident Alabama's defense can shut down LSU. A couple weeks ago, I think we may have even talked about it on the podcast. I thought yeah, LSU's offense looks great, but when LSU sees Alabama, it won't go anywhere. I kind of think LSU's offense will put up some points now.
How good are they
Yeah,
at quick
it
passes?
won't be a shutout.
I didn't get to watch that game, unfortunately, because I was exhausted from working. But do they do like the quick pass type stuff that we do? Because I feel like with the emergence of Terrell Lewis, Anthony Jennings, and hopefully Chris Barmore, maybe some DJ Dale, I think we could make Joe Burrow uncomfortable.
I feel like LSU's receivers, especially against Florida, the big plays that stand out. I feel like LSU's receivers excelled at getting a good release and just getting open downfield. I feel like LSU was able to exploit Florida's defense vertically, also in the intermediate routes. But I feel like, for me, the plays that stand out are, I was surprised that LSU hurt Florida vertically as much as they did. And I think they could do against Alabama.
And I'm gonna be honest with you, LSU will probably kill you on a deep pass. It's not so much RPOs, but it's just more of a deep pass route. If you don't get coverage downfield, LSU's gonna take that and run with it. I mean, they're gonna take that, but not even that. Joe Burrow has so much moxie about him as a quarterback. That's what scares me, and he's smelling himself. He's smelling himself right now because he's like, I don't think Alabama's a big rival. I don't think they really are big.
What do you think he smells like?
This is going to be the other big X factor here.
I'm gonna be honest with you.
The smell factor?
No, the trash talk. If LSU keeps up this fucking shit talk, they're done. Alabama doesn't play like we have more talent than they have, and when you make all that talent angry, all of them are going to play at the top of their game. We've seen it time and time again with people disrespecting the Tide, as we like to call it.
Joe Burrow has been yakking off at the mouth all.
I hope he gets louder.
And I mean, and it's only going to get louder after this Florida game. Again, he's a good kid. I got to give him credit. He's a good kid. He's a good quarterback. But I'm gonna be honest with you. Alabama, 2:30 CBS game in Tuscaloosa. It's going to be a long day for that boy down there. I don't think that he would be able to do that. And again, I'm not making predictions. It's too early. We're still about 2-3 weeks away from that game. But the point of what I am saying is Joe Burrow better watch his back. And Ed O better get a control on his mouth because I'm telling you right now, I believe Alabama's defense will play up for that game. However, don't get me wrong. Alabama is going to have to get through Tennessee. They got to get through Arkansas.
Hold on. No. You can't even.
Let's not even pretend. Let's get that shit out of here.
Get through Tennessee and Arkansas. No, you're done. You're done. Get through Tennessee and Arkansas.
All the credibility.
It's
gone.
You got to handle each test as it comes to you. You got to handle each test like Saban says every week. You can't overlook the next test. We can't be looking at LSU right now.
He's saying that for the team. He's not saying that because it's true.
Challenge than Tennessee.
I mean, I hate Tennessee, but the key is
that to Miss-State.
What I'm trying to
say. The bigger challenge for Alabama's players right now is not getting in trouble over the bye week.
That's true, but and not punching players.
Forget Tennessee. No, I'm sorry, Keshawn. You're done. Yeah, there's no get through Tennessee. Tennessee is just something that happens. Tennessee is a great chance for Alabama fans to see the new lights in Bryant-Denny Stadium.
That's why I'm going to the game for the lights.
That's all that game is going to be about. But the key of what I'm trying to say is Bama's going to have to come out Saturday and play against Tennessee like they need it. Tennessee won against Mississippi State Saturday. Yeah, they're feeling okay, but they know
it says a lot about Mississippi State and nothing about Tennessee to me.
They ain't the team that we thought they were.
I lost a lot of respect for Mississippi State. I didn't gain anything for Tennessee.
Yeah.
Hey, I mean, Auburn lost to Tennessee last year too. So I mean,
that last year was a different Tennessee. This is a bad Tennessee team. They're gonna need to win another. Tennessee needs to win another game or two before I start going, well, maybe Tennessee's getting better. I'm going to need to see a little bit more than just beating Mississippi State. It has already disappointed me this year.
If Tennessee comes into Tuscaloosa and upsets Bama, I mean, I would be a little bit nervous at that point. I'd be nervous for Bama. I just bet out and say, Big Orange is back. But The key is Bama's going to have to play each week and focus on each opponent as the way that they come. So
or they won't have to because they're better and they're playing bad teams and they don't need.
But it would be
possible-
nice for them to try to get
possible they
something
can
out of
just-
them.
I would like to see some other players play rock paper scissors to switch roles.
Yeah.
Like maybe like Najee can play rock paper scissors with an offensive lineman in the Tennessee
Okay.
game and swap places with him. And
Rapid fire.
that will probably be fine.
Rapid fire. How many yards did Texas A&M put up on Alabama Saturday?
Why is this rapid fire? Rapid fire should be an opinion question, not a fact. How many
Yeah.
yards do I know off the top of my head? I
No
have
one
no
knows.
idea.
Okay, well,
How many yards?
Too many?
How many yards?
I'm going to look it up. Texas A&M had 389 yards of total offense.
many.
Now that's
Okay.
a meaningless stat.
Okay, how many total yards of offense did Ole Miss have on Alabama the week before?
Too many.
What is this? This Keshawn, do you think our we just lost one of our two listeners? You think our two listeners are tuning in so we can just talk about how many yards team put up in junk time against Alabama?
They put up 476.
More than
Too many.
They
A&M.
put up 400.
Ole Miss should be ranked higher. Ole Miss put up more yards. That's what matters, right? Keshawn, is that what you're about to tell me?
No, what I'm trying to tell you is the key is the defense gave up both those games, and you give up 400 some odd yards to an LSU or a Tennessee team or Arkansas team. The point of what I'm trying to tell you is Bama's defense is gonna have to play lights out like they mean it every week and bring it. Yeah, we can score 65 points and make it a 65-35 game. That's great, but the point of what I'm trying to say is if the defense doesn't start stepping up and playing like they mean it, and actually, it doesn't matter. Bama may win by 25 points, but the key is the defense is a pivotal part of the team of the program, and it's gonna have to get better. Case in point on my end. Doesn't matter who you play.
I'm actually surprised Alabama only gave up 389 yards of offense to A&M. I've gained respect for Alabama's defense in the last 2 minutes.
I thought Kellen Mond was gonna run for 1 million on us after watching John Reese Plumlee, whoever the hell he is.
Oh, Plumlee.
And knowing that I'm pretty sure Kellen Mond put up, I think, 198 yards last year running, or maybe it was just 98. It was a lot. It felt like a lot. And Kellen Mond is fast, but Jimbo decided not to run his fast quarterback against the team that just gave up how many yards? 109 yards rushing to John Reese Plumlee.
Okay, real quick. Let's see if there's any. I'm looking at the schedule right now to see if there's any ranked games. Oregon. Okay, let's see real quick. Oregon's at Washington. Do any of us think Oregon won't win this game? It's not the after dark game, so we don't have to worry about any voodoo.
I've tried to make decisions about these Pac-12 games. I've thought Washington was good. I've thought Washington State was good. I'm sorry, I can't do it. I just literally have no clue.
I think Oregon's got it handedly. Washington's good. I think Washington's still good, but I think Oregon's going to be in the playoff conversation, I think, at the end of the year.
If they win,
Or
sure.
at least in November.
Hey, quack, quack. I'm going to tell you right now, Ducks. I don't know how much, but give me the Ducks.
Okay, other ranked games. We've got Arizona State at Utah. That's still not the Pac-12 game. I have much less confidence, but I would say Utah. It's at Utah, so.
I'm gonna take old boy Kevin Sumlin in this one.
It's not Kevin Sumlin, but Kevin Sumlin's at Arizona. It's what's his name?
I'm sorry. Is this Arizona State?
Arizona State.
Oh yeah, yes. Oh, I'm sorry. I changed my pick to Utah. I'm sorry.
Okay. Is that much respect for?
You would put Arizona over?
Okay, so the last ranked game is, I think this actually might be one of the best games of the weekend. Michigan at Penn State. If for no other reason than after this game, I think I will have a stronger opinion on Penn State and Michigan.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with my gut. Harbaugh doesn't do good in big games. Give me State. Penn State.
I think Penn State's just a better team. Michigan needs it more, but I think Penn State's a better team.
I don't know. Penn State just. I would have expected them to do more against Iowa if they're a good team.
Well,
I did pick Iowa.
Let me go back. Look, let me go back to this pick one more second because I will say this: Penn State hasn't done well in big games, but it's just the hardball factor. That's why I'm choosing Penn State. Because I can't
simply because it's a home game. I'd pick Penn State simply because it's a home
Happy
game.
Valley whiteout at night, primetime ABC. Yeah,
I don't. Do we have any idea that I think we're just assuming it's a whiteout, right?
Yeah, they actually did. I think they said it was a whiteout.
Okay,
it game day?
Probably is.
Is it game day?
Should be. Game day isn't always going to good locations this year, or the best. Game day wants to spread the wealth a little more than I think they want to go to the best game each week.
I don't know if they've been to Penn State though.
I'm not sure.
Oh well.
SEC real quick. Let's just Florida's at South Carolina. We all pick them Florida. Yeah. Gamecocks they're not gonna get lucky twice. Right?
Probably not.
Yeah, they did Florida back to back actually.
Yeah, so I'd pick Florida.
Yeah.
Keshawn, would you pick Florida?
But I don't think Florida's that much better.
Oh, really? See, I'm probably a little higher on Florida. I think if you watch the Florida LSU
offense
game,
is just so boring. Their offense is just so average and boring after watching them against Auburn.
I will say this. I don't want to dwell on it. I was impressed by Florida in the loss to LSU. I think Florida can win the East. In fact, I would maybe pick Florida to win the East today.
What? Hold on, come again?
Hey, that'd make your prediction wrong. That would make them not second.
What?
Kentucky had some injuries. Kentucky is a different team.
As we told you, with them losing Josh Allen, Benny Snell.
They're a different team now than they were when I had a different quarterback. I picked largely because of the quarterback. Okay, real quick, we got to get out of here. Keshawn's got a life. Auburn's at Arkansas. Auburn, we don't need to talk about it, right? Auburn.
Come on now, Auburn across the board. I hate it, but come on, they're across the board.
LSU's at Miss State. LSU.
Oh, LSU all day.
Okay. Missouri at Vanderbilt. Will this be the game that gets Derek Mason fired?
No, I actually think that he will.
Okay, Dollar Martin.
Pull within a couple points, but next game he will get fired.
Okay.
I don't think Derek Mason's ever going to get fired.
You don't think okay? Hey,
Vanderbilt's not firing a football coach unless he does something bad.
A basketball coach.
We'll see.
They were competitive in basketball.
I'm not saying Derek Mason should be fired. I'm just saying Derek Mason. There is talk, and it's Vanderbilt has been disappointing. But yeah, so we all think Missouri will win.
Hold up a sec. I'm looking at this SEC schedule, and I'm seeing ticket prices next to the games. Ticket prices for the Vandy game are $3, as low as $3.
For the Missouri Vandy game?
Yeah. Sorry, that's just hilarious to me.
Leo, would you go watch Vanderbilt's home game against Missouri for $3 if you lived in Nashville?
Fuck no. No, I would not.
Okay.
I wouldn't go watch that either, man. I got TV for that.
I would happily go watch the Vanderbilt Missouri game for $3.
When Broadway's that close? No. I'd rather go Broadway.
I'm glad you added that, though. Kentucky is at Georgia, and if it matters, this game costs $49.
Yeah.
Let me just say it like this. Georgia lost last weekend. They ain't losing again this weekend. Georgia.
Kentucky has not been the team I predicted it would be. Georgia's going to win handedly.
Yeah, Georgia will win.
None of these have really been interesting. Like Florida and South Carolina has been the best so far. Texas A&M and Ole Miss. I'm gonna pick A&M, and I'm still not really interested in this game.
A&M.
Yeah. Well, I want it to be A&M because I think they have the best chance of being ranked again. So I'm gonna pick A&M. But
okay. And then it doesn't need to be said that we've got Alabama across the board.
I don't know. Keyshawn's talking about Tennessee. How Tennessee's going to give us a challenge, maybe
Keyshawn,
beat us. We got to
Keyshawn,
make it through that.
You want to go on record? You want to go on record and make a bold prediction about Tennessee?
No, there's no bold prediction to make here. Alabama's going to win by 3 touchdowns, if not more. But here's the key: they got a catchy fight song. They've got a great,
They've got a better
band.
Better band.
They do have a great
Year
band.
after
They have
year.
a great
I'll be in
band.
the Upper Bowl to watch that too. I'm excited.
Yeah,
Yeah, you'll get to really appreciate the circle drill.
I get to see the
don't get me
lights. I get to
wrong.
see a better band. Excited.
Don't get me wrong. Tennessee has got a great fight song. I like singing that song. It's a great country song.
The band has been the most excited I've been about Tennessee the entire year. And I should say everything that needs to be said about Tennessee's football program right now.
Hold on. What little piece I'll say about Tennessee? The last time Tennessee beat Alabama, Facebook wasn't even around yet. Heck, the iPhone wasn't even invented.
I think Facebook was. I think Twitter wasn't. Facebook was
Twitter,
like,
man. Either way, the point of what I'm trying to say, social media wasn't on the level that it was, and I don't even think that no Tennessee fan has got to tweet about they got to beat Alabama. So the point of what I'm trying to say here is,
So that's a shame. It's a shame that you haven't been able to tweet about beating your rival.
and football at least. But the
Yeah,
key
we're really
about
sorry
it
for you,
is, I'm
Keshawn.
gonna be honest with you. Tennessee ain't nothing gonna change this weekend. It's gonna be a whole nother 365 days till they have the chance to do it again. Alabama. Although I do like Rocky Top's theme song. Rocky Top, you'll always be home sweet home to me.
we got to do something
Yeah, I
about
think
all these people talking
I think
about
we can
Tennessee
kick
like
Keyshawn
this.
off the call now. I think we're done with him.
Yeah, man. Just hate to see it.
Okay, I think that's as good a place to end as any with Keyshawn singing Rocky. I've never. Yeah, that's good. Let's go home now.
Yep. Thanks for listening, guys. See y'all later.